Morning, everyone. We've had another Tory sleaze scandal, a big one. Actually, this one should be absolutely massive, huge, and it won't be. So there's two stories here. The first one is the one that you've probably already sort of seen. This Tory MP, Mark Menzies, we could call this the drunk dog scandal, even though the drunk dog aspect of it is almost certainly the hardest to prove and is the least serious anyway. One of the allegations is that he got someone else's dog drunk, right? But the more serious allegations are things like, basically, if the allegations are true, he's probably extorted thousands of pounds from his friends, from the people in his local Conservative Party who've helped him get elected. Campaign managers, other aides, donors, things like that. And he certainly seems to have abused campaign funds. People have donated to the Conservative Party locally for his fund, and he's used that. And this isn't that. Some of these are allegations. Some of the things in this Times article are allegations. Some of them, as far as I can tell from the article, because that's all I know about it, are not even contested by him. For example, using about £14,000 of party campaign funds to pay for his own private medical treatment. Now, I'll tell you what we don't know from the article. We don't know whether he actually had any of that medical treatment, or did he just tell people that's what it's for. But even if that is what it was for, that's campaign funds. Now, that is the first story, and that is the story that the media focus on. But there is another story, and it's a bigger story. I'm just going to come to I don't normally do this early, but I'm just going to come to a couple of comments because first of all, someone has pointed out in the comments early on before we started that, if the Tories have been sitting on this and yet they've been having a pop at Angela Rayner, and it absolutely shows the rank hypocrisy because the Tories have known about this. We only found out about it because the Times broke the story last night. Now, I'm going to get on to why the Times have got hold of this story, or why I think they have. So there's a bit of a hint in the article. But ultimately, the Tories, like the Tory leadership, the top of the party, has known about this for months. Now, it's been going on for years, but to be fair, they wouldn't have necessarily known about it. But they definitely knew about it 3 months ago. And in that 3 months, they've done absolutely nothing. They've hidden it from the police. These are allegations of crimes. These are also allegations of criminal offences specifically relating to campaign funds. So as soon as Simon Hart, the chief whip, got hold of this, he should have informed the police and he should have informed the Electoral Commission. And they've sat on that. And the thing is, you could say to yourself, well, maybe they didn't think they were credible or something like that. Right, here's the thing. The story broke at 9:30 yesterday evening. 9:30 in the evening, right? I'm a bit of an insomniac, so I'm following it, of course. I'm going, the latest Tory sleaze. I'm going to have to do this as my video tomorrow morning now, aren't I? So my schedule is out straight away. Never mind, doesn't matter. And then I'll complain one day when I don't get all these scandals happening. And then before midnight, he'd lost the party whip. I can't remember exactly what time it was, but I was still browsed when I saw the news come up. Oh, he's lost the party whip. Now, here's the thing. That was very quick, wasn't it? That was very quick. Try and think back to the last couple of times a Tory MP's lost the party whip. Try and think back. We had William Ragg. He had to, like Labour were joking, he had to sack himself. Rishi Sunak did not remove the whip from William Ragg at all, remember. William Ragg has voluntarily surrendered the party whip. He had to sack himself. So Sunak wouldn't even get rid of the whip from William Ragg, who, if you recall, has not only behaved fairly scandalously, but has endangered fellow MPs, right? Before that, Peter Bone, look at his disgraceful behaviour, waving his willy in front of employees and things like that. Now, he did not even have the whip removed after all this was known. He only had the whip removed after an official parliamentary investigation found him guilty. And even then, it was the next day. It wasn't straight away. It wasn't even on the same day that the Standards Committee said, yeah, you're not supposed to wave your willy in front of people, mate. it took till the next day. The whip was removed as soon as the story broke. As soon as the story broke, late last night. That means the Tories not only know how serious this is, but they think it's credible. They think the allegations are credible, right? That's the only explanation, because their past behavior is they don't remove the whip unless it's all like really clear, someone's clearly guilty. So the Tories know that their own investigation has clearly said, yeah, these claims are very credible, because they'll have checked it out. It's their accounts, it's their bank accounts this has come from. So, well, in a way it is, in a way it isn't. But nonetheless, they've been investigating for 3 months, so they know, and they've still concealed it from the police and Electoral Commission. Steve Kirk, $9.99 super chat, thank you very much. Says, must be really hard being a political comedy writer at the moment, as nothing could be considered out of the ordinary. Yeah, I mean, we've said for some years, haven't we? Political parody. I mean, you know, God bless them, but must be a tough life right now. Must be a tough life. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to be cheeky here. I'm going to show you something that was flagged up. This is absolutely priceless. On the issue of, you know, hopefully this will show up. On the issue of political parody is dead. Okay. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah, this is the woman that the Tories made Prime Minister. They're all having a pop at Keir Starmer. Oh, you tried to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister. You tried to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister. You actually made Liz Truss Prime Minister. You actually made her the Prime Minister. Unbelievable. But anyway, never mind that. The point I want to make is so the big story should be the Conservatives covering up crimes here, or potential crimes, and clearly credible crimes, because they've removed the whip, right? So he's not going to be the Conservative candidate for the election, put it that way. But I just want to refer to, so this story broke in the Times, and there is an article, there's a link to the article in the Times below, but the Times has a paywall. So I've also linked to a BBC article, but I just want to point out the BBC article is not that great. The headline of the BBC article is, Tory MP suspended over alleged misuse of campaign funds. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He was suspended because the public found out about it, right? And so that BBC headline is misleading. He hasn't had the whip removed. The Tories knew about his alleged misuse of campaign funds 3 months ago. He has not had the whip removed at any point since. He only had it removed about 2 or 3 hours after the Times broke the story, which is now on their front page today, right? He was suspended for bad headlines. Oh, yeah, that is exactly what he's suspended for. He's suspended because the public have found out. Alec Barrett, £5 super chat, thank you. It says, political parody needs full Charlie Chaplin-style slapstick at this point. Even that could be toning it down. But and this is my major issue with this story. The behavior of the Tory MP in question is, you know, the sense of entitlement. He's like, because, you know, he's stolen from his own friends. And that's what, but that's why I think the bigger story is what the Tory party have done. So they've covered up, they've concealed crimes from the police. So they're obstructing the course of justice. They've not passed on the information to the Electoral Commission. I mean, you could argue, I would argue, the people who passed the information to Simon Hart, the chief whip, in the first place, they should have gone to the police. But I understand why they didn't, right? Because it's like to do with the political party. You think to yourself, you know, party loyalty, you know, you go to the party's internal system. I don't think that should happen. In fact, I think there should be a specific law that says that, you know, because ordinary people will act out of party loyalty. That's understood. We don't punish them, right? But when they use the party's internal complaints procedure, the people who are running that should be legally required to, if there's any evidence of criminal activity, it should be passed on to the authorities. So in this case, it should have been passed on to the police or the Electoral Commission. And that, I think there needs to be a specific criminal offence for not doing so. because it's not, the Conservatives are not the only party who do this, but although it is mostly them, but there are others as well. But I don't like this idea of parties thinking that they can internally investigate what are effectively crimes. And here's the thing, like from the party's point of view, you think to yourself, oh, they're just covering for their own again. They're covering for their own. They're not covering for their own. They're actually harming their own. Mark Menzies has stolen money from the Conservative Party, and, well, if the allegations are true, the allegations, right? But he's alleged to have stolen money from the Conservative Party and members of the Conservative Party, activists. Some of them are paid activists, like a campaign manager. Some of them weren't. Some of them are just like local Tories who wanted to support their party. And he's potentially extorted money from them. So the Conservative Party, by behaving like this, they're not protecting their own. They're screwing their own over. They're harming their own. And and I think the reason why this has now come to the attention of the media, why it's been published, I think that whoever, because this has been going on for years, right? Whoever got sick of it and reported it to the Conservative Party, I mean, there is a bit of a hint in the article, but I may be reading too much into it. But I strongly suspect what's happened is they have decided that the internal party process was not working properly. And so they've gone to the media. I think that's what's happened. I think they've gone to the party first, expecting them to deal with it. They haven't dealt with it as quickly as they would like. So now they've gone to the media. Because what I would say here is, this is not... like, try and draw a parallel with the situation with the SNP. Like, Nicola Sturgeon and her husband and like someone else are still under investigation. And all of that was SNP money. It wasn't public money. It was SNP money. And yet there was a criminal investigation. There still is. I don't know why it's going on so long. But, Scottish police have been investigating that. So you can't just say, oh, it's all internal party system. No public funds are used, therefore it's not a matter of the police. No, it is. And it should be. If it is for the SNP, why isn't it for the Tories? They're at the moment trying to accuse Labour, oh, one rule for them, another rule for the rest of us. No, that's their motto. That is their motto. And yeah, this is going to make the Angela Rayner thing look utterly ridiculous. I mean, it already was anyway. It already was. But utterly ridiculous. I mean, I saw something weird on Twitter earlier. There were 4 things trending. There was Mark Menzies, the MP at the centre of this scandal. Jonathan Gullis, for some reason, I didn't check that out. Chemtrails, and Dan Hodges, who's obviously the rodeo clown in chief for the Rayner story. But there we go. I thought it was an offence not to report a crime when you're aware of the crime. Yeah, but it happens too often. It is, you're right, but it happens too often with political parties. And it's not just the Tories, but it is mostly the Tories. But it doesn't matter. It's not just them. It happens far too often. Someone reports potentially criminal behavior to a party. The party takes it upon itself to carry out an internal process. It's like, no, it's a criminal. These are criminal allegations. You should be passing that information on to the police. I understand it from the sort of people who, like the people here in the in the party system, they've reported it to their party instead of the police. Okay, don't punish them. But Simon Hart should have known better. Johnny Cophead, another £5 super chat. Thank you very much. Nominative determinism. Peter Bone, Willie Waggerag, Chris Pincher. What's this bloke called? Embezzler. No. I don't know whether Menzies means something unfortunate. Of course, nominative determinism, it affects all Tory MPs by default because they refer to themselves as Tories, which, of course, basically comes from, it was what the Irish used to describe. It basically means bandits or brigands, doesn't it? So it constantly amazes me that they adopted the moniker for themselves, that they're proud of it. But anyway, in January, we're told the plan is to release a new sleaze story every week until Sunak's forced to resign. I suspect this isn't. I mean, yes, we do know that there are a group of rebels who are trying to drip bad stories, it's hard to see how they would be behind this one. Because I can't understand, like, this is a pure, this, in terms of who wouldn't have known about it, it would only be people who are in that local area. And they have reported it, or some of them have reported it to the Tory party. What they did with it then at that point. But there we go. So yeah, but you are right. There are a group of sort of Tories, UKIPers, basically, really, who are trying to drip bad stories. But I'm not sure I'd see how they would have been able to engineer this one. We need a new Yes Minister, a documentary version. Well, I mean, it was sort of suggested with Yes Minister that a lot of the stories were quite close to factual things that happened to be coincidence. And it turned out that the writers did have someone who was like very close to Harold Wilson for some of their material. But yeah, what about James Cleverly? Yeah, James Cleverly of Braintree. That is nominative determinism's cruelest joke. He was born on opposite day. But there we go. Menzies, boys' names of Scottish origin meaning to reside or abide by in someone else's flat. Well, one of the things he's accused of doing, talking about someone else's flat, is going round to, I think it was a flat, could be a home, but someone else's home. So apparently some of the money he basically took was, he needed $5,000 to cover, like, he'd got drunk at someone's home. He'd gone to someone's home, got drunk, went to someone else's home, got pissed again, like you do, it happens. And apparently he had to come up with $5,000 to cover cleaning up the mess. And if he didn't come up with it, he'd be in trouble or something like that. And I'm thinking, how much mess can you actually cause when you're drunk? How do you cause $5,000 worth of mess? Seriously. I mean, the last time I moved out from a rented property, I paid for a deep clean, right? Before I left. It did not cost me $5,000, and that was a deep clean of an entire house. How on earth does it cost you $5,000 to clean up a drunken party? John Hart saying Dan Hodges will be all over this tumbleweed. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. No, he'll still be going on. I haven't actually checked him out this morning. He'll still be going on about Angela Rayner. So many dog whistles, so few whistleblowers. Yeah, I really abhor this system, and to an extent, all political parties do it. It's just that only one political party has sleaze monsters on this scale that they're doing it every day. Because I've said, normal government, I mean, scandals affect all governments, all political parties, right? Because politics does attract entitled people of all parties. You know, there are some people who are sort of well-meaning and they'll join one of the decent parties, but they still have this sense of entitlement. Or maybe they develop a sense of entitlement becoming an MP. They observe other people's behaviours. Like, for example, this Mark Menzies, I'll get to that super chat in one moment. This Mark Menzies comes from an ordinary background. I mean, brought up single mother situation. His dad unfortunately passed away before he was born. You know, so ordinary background, but he went to private school, like some sort, I think some sort of scholarship or something. So you can understand how this will have developed, won't you? He's there in a private school, rubbing shoulders with people who are like incredibly privileged. And so he develops the same sense of entitlement. However, he doesn't have the resources to fund this, this lifestyle of expectation. So he resorts potentially to dishonestly getting this money, because, you know, all of this money, tens of thousands of, actually it is tens of thousands of pounds altogether. And we don't know that any of it was spent on what he claimed it was for either. But even if it was, in one of them, he claimed that he'd got in with some bad people and he needed they'd locked him in a flat and he needed $5,000 to get him out of it, which turned into $6,500. Now, something like that, it doesn't matter which is true. Either he was telling the truth, in which case he was basically abducted, criminal offense, or he was lying to get the money for himself, in which case he's extorted money from his friends. Anyway, oh, night, £10 super chat. Thank you very much. There are just as many powerless moderate conservatives tied in this government as the left and are content to rebuild reputation at a local level where they can do some good. Something like this, though, only damages it. This has now damaged the Conservative Party reputation. Had that been reported to the police, then the Conservative Party would have been forced to not, they wouldn't have been in a position to cover it up. So this is why I would say those local activists, I can understand them working on the basis of party unity and party loyalty. I get that, and they've given it to their party leadership who've let them down. But if they'd have just taken this evidence to the police directly and the Electoral Commission, then what would have happened? The Conservative Party would not have suffered a reputational hit because they wouldn't have been in a position to even make the decision to cover it up. It'd have all been out in the public anyway, so they'd have to just remove. They'd have had to remove the WIP months ago, and that would be all there is to it, and it'd be being dealt with properly now. So it wouldn't have damaged the party's reputation because the party would have been forced to do the right thing and make the right noises. Now it's harmed the Conservative Party because they received the information and they've sat on it. And something like this should be a massive scandal. And it's not going to be. And the reason it's not going to be is because the media are going to cover. They're going to go with the story, but their focus is going to be on the MP at the centre of it. But the bigger story, this is like one corrupt MP, right? There's loads of them. There's dozens of them. In fact, we've got proof there's dozens of them because dozens of them have already been basically had the whip removed, or they've been found guilty by a committee, or they've already been booted out of Parliament. But there are dozens of these people who are getting away with it every single day. But the Tory party, you know, when these things come to their attention, it would be lovely if they tried to make more of an effort not to allow these people to become their candidates in the first place. But you could argue, you know, there's only so much you can do about that, because the reason why the Conservative Party has more of these than anyone else, I think, is because the Conservative Party specifically markets itself as the party of the selfish bastard. That's what it is. It's the party of the self. Other parties are about the collective, you know, like the Green Party, the SNP, Plaid Labour, Lib Dems. They are all, you know, they all have the different ideas about what's best, but it's all about the collective. It's about what's best for everyone, or at least the vast majority of people. Whereas the Conservative Party is all about, we're about what's best for you, just you, no one else. So of course it attracts more of these arseholes, but it cannot allow a political party to just decide to carry out an internal party investigation on criminal matters. It needs dealing with. And given that political parties clearly are not acting responsibly, that is why you legislate. You legislate when people do not act responsibly without a law, a specific law. That's why I think there needs to be a specific law for this. Anyway, I'll catch up with some more comments here. The caliber of Tory MPs is just so horrifyingly low. Shouldn't be in charge of broom and litter carts. Shouldn't be out of jail. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm going to be honest, but the standard's not really very much higher from other political parties either. If you really get to know most MPs, like in most political parties, the more able ones rise to the top. Yeah. So if you try and think about what you really know about most MPs, not Tory MPs, most MPs, you probably don't know very much about very many of them. The only ones you really know ones about mostly are the ones who rose to the top. The vast majority of them, you don't even know who they are. And then they're really very poor quality if you listen to them for any length of time. A decade ago, yeah, he has been involved in scandal. Someone's just a decade ago, Mr. Menzies quit as a ministerial aide following allegations about his behavior made by a Brazilian male escort. Yeah, he has been involved in scandal before. He was a bit of he was supposed to be a bit of a shining light of the Conservative Party when David Cameron was about. But yeah, he got himself into scandal, was dropped, and has not held a ministerial post since. But, you know, I mean, some of this behavior. And the thing is, you know, although they're all allegations at the moment, they can't actually all be false, because there's multiple people. It's not like one person making these allegations, multiple people. The Times thought it was interesting enough to publish, and the Conservatives, as I said, they remember they didn't remove the whip when it came out that Peter Bone had been basically sexually harassing a member of staff. They didn't remove the whip from William Ragg, who basically compromised the security of fellow MPs. There's so many cases where they have not removed the whip very quickly at all. They've said, oh, no, we must wait for the investigation. There isn't even an investigation. There probably should be today. By the end of today, there should be. But there isn't even an investigation into this man other than internally. And yet they've removed the whip as soon as the story broke. It's disgusting. I've just seen breaking news. Ipsos, record-breaking voting intention. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness me. So, it's got the Conservatives on 19 and Labour on 44%. So that is a record Labour lead for Ipsos Mori, who have been doing, oh, dear. What's that? 25 points. They've even got Reform on 13%. Now, Ipsos Mori are the pollster who have not been inflating Reform UK share. They have tended to be downplaying Reform UK share of the vote and have generally been more in line with by-election results. So if they've got Reform UK on 13%, wow. But this is the lowest the Conservatives have ever polled for Ipsos. And they've been doing polls since 1978. Wow. Anyway, another super chat from Owen Knight there. Thank you very much. £10. Says, no, I feel this is a difference between Conservative and Labour. Labour still errs towards meritocracy. My constituency, for example, Gary Streeter's lad is being pushed because he's Streeter's boy. I do think there is a difference in other political parties in terms of attitudes. Yes, I appreciate that. For example, in Labour, people do not, tug the forelocks to people just because they went to private school like they do in the Conservative Party. In fact, if anything, you might actually find you face a harder time in the Labour Party if you've been to private school, which is why I tend to try to keep it quite quiet that I went to private school for like 2 years between the ages of 4 and 6. There you go. But we've run out of time there. I'm just going to read the last few. But don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel before you bugger off. They'll claim they removed the whip as soon as the story broke and attack Stam for not removing the whip from Rayner. I think you're probably right. But again, the media should be asking, why, if you've known about this for 3 months, did you not act? Why have you concealed it from the police? Why have you concealed it from the Electoral Commission? Why did you only just remove the whip when the story broke? Those are the questions that should be asked. And guess what? Maybe Susanna Reid will ask and no one else will, because I'll bet you Tory ministers are not going to go to any journalists in the next few days who might ask it. But especially given the PMQs yesterday, where Starmer made no headway at all, he really ought to bring this up next week, don't you think? Unless, of course, I mean, like I say, next week, that's a whole week away, right? That's 6 whole days away. Who knows what happens then? Because as I keep saying, normal governments have a scandal maybe twice a year, and probably not on this level. Someone shits the bed twice a year. For the Tories now, it's like twice a week. This is today's scandal. There'll be another one tomorrow. When we keep saying things like, can the Tories even hang on till autumn? We're mostly talking about, can Rishi Sunak hang on till autumn? But actually, and we keep joking about this, what if he ends up with like a minority government without an election? That he just has to keep removing the whip from so many MPs because of their disgraceful behaviour. And they do have such a large majority that's not going to happen. But bloody hell. I mean, it's like you can't rule it out. You can't rule it out. I mean, when's the next one? And yeah, next PMQs is 6 more scandals away. Yeah, it probably is. It probably is. But this is a big one. It should be a bigger one. I can already see the media basically covering for the Tories. They're already covering. Again, even the Guardian's hardly pro-Tory, is it? Tory MP loses whip. Tory MP, sorry, loses whip after claims he used party funds to pay bad people. No, he lost the party whip after the public found out. He lost the whip. This would be more accurate to say Tory MP loses whip 3 months after claims he used party funds to pay bad people. Or Tory MP loses whip 2 hours after the public find out what the Tories have known for 3 months. That would be a better headline. But anyway, never mind. Guardian's not pro-Labour, no, but it's not pro-Tory. So I don't understand why they're covering for the Tories here. Because that's what it is. Any headline that puts the focus on Menzies, but not the behaviour of the Tory leadership, is covering for the Tories. And they know they're covering for the Tories because they know the bigger issue is not what one sleazy MP did, but what a whole gaggle of Tory party leaders and officials has done or not done. But anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for coming on. Have a great day, everyone. You're going to have a much better day than Mark Menzies. But thanks for coming on. And until next time, I'll see you later.